Okay, so recently, and it's not so recent, I think it was a few weeks ago now, the guy who's going to play Shazam was cast, which kind of, it was weird for me because I was under the impression, well, I was not under the impression, but I was in my feelings because I thought, no one, I think to myself, no one really looks like Shazam. And I had this idea of what Shazam looks like in my head. And my idea of what Shazam looks like is literally the Alex Ross version of Shazam. Um, I have the book somewhere. I don't know what it's called, but I think it's called Shazam: The Power of Hope. I think that's what it's called, right? It's this beautiful book Alex Ross painted. Alex Ross, for all those people that don't know, is a guy that worked for DC, and he usually works with Mark Wade. Um, and he started out his first story, his biggest and first story, I think, for DC was a book called Kingdom Come, which is a dystopian future kind of version of the DC universe. Very cinematic, very beautiful, um, like artwork. It looks his artwork looks like Rockwell stuff. It's like realistic, so it's like very realistic to a point where it looks like it was shot from cameras. Very high contrast, so the blacks are very black. Anyway, I'm going into my artist stuff. By the way, I'm an artist, just so people know. I kind of do comic book illustration and concept art, so I kind of have this stuff in my mind. But yeah, anyway, and my idea of Shazam is like the Alex Ross version of him. So if you just Google Alex Ross Shazam, and I can't think of anyone that looks like that. Um, so I was kind of like, oh, this guy, he's going to be Shazam. I think the guy that played Chuck, right? Chuck, the comedy kind of like spy action thing, he's going to be Shazam. And when I've seen like people doing these photo bashes of him looking like in the Shazam suit, I thought it looks pretty cool. So I can't really wait. To be fair, why do I say I can't wait? Because Shazam has been my favorite superhero for years. Right up there with all my other favorites because I don't have one favorite of anything. I struggle with that. There's too much variation in the world. Okay, I don't have a favorite food. I sort of have a favorite color, but not really because I'm an artist. We use all the colors a lot of the time, you know. But look, because Shazam is a character to me, it's very close to my heart because I used to have a friend, right, and I remember he put on this cassette tape one time, and the cassette tape was titled Shazam with an N at the end. It was a typo, obviously. The show was called Shazam, and it was a show that existed. I don't know when, probably in the '70s or something. But it was a show about Captain Marvel, which was what it used to be called before Marvel kind of took that name for themselves. Rightly so, they are called Marvel Comics, but this guy used to be called Captain Marvel, right? And he was. Let me explain the character because people might not get the character, right? He's a he's a kid that says Shazam, and then he's basically turned into Superman. Basically, not exactly. He doesn't have all of Superman's powers, but he's turned into a character who has most of Superman's powers. In fact, in the comic books, Shazam could fly first. So Captain Marvel, Superman was created in 1938. Couldn't fly. Kept used to jump over buildings and stuff. Shazam could fly, and he was created in 1940. And then the Fleischer Studios, Max Fleischer Studios, created a Superman cartoon where they just made him fly. And from those cartoons, and this I think they were in 1941. From those cartoons, Superman had the power of flight, but Shazam was kind of more of the original Superman than Superman because he could fly and he had all these extra powers. And, he was just more in tune with the character that he still is today. He's basically then the character he's going to be in the movie. He hasn't really been changed, which is whereas Superman has up and down been changed. Anyway, this character, when me and my friend used to watch these, I used to be fascinated by this guy because he says Shazam and a lightning bolt comes down and transforms him into basically this unstoppable character, right? And the movie will bring that to a more fleshed out, realistic place because there's so many different versions of the Shazam story and iterations and people's interpretations of it. But anyway, Alex Ross, let me harken back, was a big fan of Shazam as well. he used to, he used to paint mostly stories that were about the DC universe. But in Kingdom Come, the story that was his big story, Shazam was like the villain because he'd been brainwashed since because he was a kid, right, in the comics, and he had been brainwashed from being a kid till being an adult now, right? So he was a kid, and he could say Shazam and turn into his adult self with powers. So in this comic book, he looked exactly like Captain Marvel when he was normal because he was an adult because this was set in the future. But he was being brainwashed by Lex Luthor and stuff in his civilian form. So he came up against Superman at the end of the book, and they have this big clash, and none of them can beat each other because they're supposed to be equals. So if they do make Shazam Superman's equal in the DCEU, I'll be very happy. They probably won't. They'll probably make him more Wonder Woman level. She's an incredibly powerful character as well, but in Justice League, they blatantly try to say or show or convey that Superman's on another level to most of the characters. But Shazam essentially has all of his powers, so all that stuff you saw him reacting at super speed to Flash. Shazam should be able to do that. Shazam also has magic. He can charge his attacks, so he can charge his attacks with magic. So he can charge his fists with magic. He could, I think he shoots lightning bolts now. For years and years, he had these magical powers, but no one delved into it because no one really kind of wanted to mess with the character too much. Now he legit has lightning powers. What's weird about the DCEU though, or the DCFU, DC Film Universe, is that Flash's lightning is blue, and Shazam and Flash both have lightning. They're both, funnily enough, characters with red outfits and a yellow lightning bolt, right? But Flash's lightning in the comics and in the CW show is yellow, right? In the DCFU, Flash's lightning is blue like normal lightning. Shazam's lightning, hopefully in the DCFU, will be yellow, like it originally was. Why do I say this? Because it's magical lightning. So it doesn't actually have to be lightning. It's just magic taking the form of lightning, you know? And the original version of Shazam had yellow lightning anyway. So it'll be cool to see that version of Shazam be conveyed and be brought back, even in just the symbolism of that lightning being yellow, you know. But yeah, the Shazam character is cool. Let's talk about how they could do it, because essentially the character is pretty, it's pretty set out. He's a character who originally was he's created as a champion, right? So originally there was a character called Tef Adam. He becomes Black Adam. He was the first iteration of Shazam, and what happens is they gather powers from a pantheon of gods and give them to this one individual. See, the gods have already been established in the DCFU, so you can say this, and this are his powers. Because Zeus already exists, by the way, and Zeus gives Shazam one of his powers. But yeah, Tef Adam was given powers by the Egyptian gods, and he basically becomes each Shazam is basically exactly the same, give or take. You could say they're stronger or weaker, but they basically have the exact same powers from different pantheons of gods. And he went rogue, he went evil, so he kind of went evil, and he didn't get stripped of his powers, but he got sent away. So the guy who was going to give Shazam his powers, the wizard in the comic books, needs another champion. He finds this kid who's pure of heart and is free from all these inhibitions, the seven enemies of man and stuff, greed, sloth, all those kinds of things. He's free of them. He's just a neutral kid who has aspirations, and he's a really good kid. He gives him these powers. When he says Shazam, he becomes a grown man. They could just do that in the film, but they could keep harkening back to Tef Adam's story, because apparently Dwayne The Rock Johnson is playing Black Adam. Tef Adam, Black Adam. So he's going to be a big part of the movie. But they could keep harkening back to him, and they can come and have this clash. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I kind of want the Shazam character to get his feet wet before he starts fighting people on his level. But it could very much be like Man of Steel, just a little bit more light-hearted and with a little bit more coolness going on. Because it's very similar, guy is Kryptonian. He comes to Earth, starts developing powers, and other Kryptonians come to Earth and develop powers, and they clash. They eventually clash. Oh yeah, just for you guys that don't really know much about Captain Marvel, there's a show called Justice League Unlimited, and I think this episode aired in 2003 or 4. But basically, Superman and Shazam get into a fight. The episode's called Clash, right? They get into a fight. So that's Clash. Clash, right? Clash. And they get into a fight over some kind of, like, Lex Luthor is trying to confuse Superman. So he confuses Superman into ruining an event, and Captain Marvel tries to stop him, and they get into a fight. Really, really good episode. Really, really good representation of those two characters clashing each other and the power levels, and So check it out. Kind of good representation of Captain Marvel, because the direction they've tried to go in a lot of the time is that he still acts like a kid even when he's grown. But before, let's say in the 90s, when Captain Marvel was Captain Marvel, he also is granted wisdom as one of his powers. So he didn't act like a kid. He acted just like a hero would. So I can't wait to kind of see how they manifest all of his abilities. And when I say that, I mean all of them. I mean, like, how they manifest his flight, how he looks, does lightning come off him, how he interacts with the environment. Because the DCFU has been very good at, like, their character power manifestation. It always looks good. So how are they gonna do it? Is he gonna be as fast as Superman when he flies? Is he gonna turn into light? Can he shoot lightning like Zeus? Can he run like the Flash? How are they going to convey him? Because if you look at there's a DC animated direct to DVD video, or movie where it's about Shazam coming of age. It's called I think it's called Superman and Shazam, First Thunder or something like that. And Black Adam returns to Earth and Shazam defeats him. Him and Superman defeat him. But he manifests his powers, and he learns all the powers separately. So he starts running. He's like, I'm fast, and then he throws a car or something. He's like, I'm strong. You know what I'm saying? And he, like, kind of understands, like, and he starts flying, and he's like, I can fly, and he gets it. And it's just so cool. Like, I hope they do some of that stuff, and they, like, add some of that, like, childish excitement to it. But at the same time, they might, like, kind of they've done with Superman, they might not make him do any super speed running. They just don't seem like they're going in that direction. And I don't like that, me personally. I want Superman to run at super speed as well. I just do. I just want him to do it. I just think it would be cool as a fan of these characters, But anyway, the way I see it is this. Dwayne Rock Johnson's going to sell movie tickets, most likely. I hope he conveys Black Adam well. I hope there's a separation between the two characters in terms of how they're conveyed in the movie. Because, in the comics, they've been conveyed very similarly for a while. I see it as strange, because they both come from completely different pantheons of gods. Excuse me. So, I just think that they should be conveyed differently. To each other, at least. But anyway, I've been Fiji. This is where I think and I feel. Please like and subscribe. Please share if you like the video. And yeah, it helps me get off the ground, guys. And as I say every week before I end the video, cha-cha!